I ain't got her. It'll be more than 30 seconds.
Think we one more time to see. Not gonna start you out winded. Go on, I'll get in.
All right, pardon the technological interferences here, but good afternoon. The time is 4:13. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Public Safety Committee. I'm your chair, Dan Syme, I'm joined by my vice chair, Councilwoman Tammy Hawkins. Today I'm joined by the following committee members: Ken Herndon, Shamika Parrish Wright, Betsy Rui, Jonathan Joseph, Barbara Shanklin, and
Is anybody online? You got anybody online? No, we got
Marilyn Parker.
She's got an excuse that. Oh, yeah.
Anthony Piagentini has an excused absence, and Jenny Mulvey-Woolridge has an excused absence. Clerk, will you please read the virtual meeting language?
This meeting is being held pursuant to KRS 61.826 on Council Rule 5A, read in full.
Thank you, Clerk. We've got 3 items on the agenda. One is a discussion item and 2 pieces of legislation. I think we're going to go with the 2 pieces of legislation first in case the discussion goes a little longer. Clerk, please read item number 2 in the record, please.
An ordinance amending the Louisville Metro Code of Ordinances, LMCO, Chapter 51, regarding the licensing of trash haulers and enforcement of licensing requirements, read in full.
Can we move? Been properly moved. As a primary sponsor of the ordinance, I'll give a brief overview. We have Pete Flood, who's here to give any questions. Peter, if you're in. Some of the things we're going to key in on is increased penalties for offenders on solid waste. First offense, vehicle impounded for 3 days with a $500 fine. The second offense for dumping will be the vehicle being impounded for 30 days with a $1,000 fine. And then the third and subsequent offense, within 5 years, vehicle will be impounded for 90 days with a $2,000 fine. The financial responsibility, offenders will be liable for towing, storage, and cleanup costs. Vehicle release process, the impounded vehicles may only be released after filing an appeal and posting bond equal to the civil fine. Appeal process updates, appeal deadline extended from 7 to 30 days. Failure to appeal within this period results in maximum impoundment being enforced. Additional clarifications, minor language and formatting revisions improve clarity and consistency in enforcement. Mr. Flood, would you announce your name and your title and give us a little bit more information?
Sure. My name is Pete Flood. I am Assistant Director at the Department of Public Works Solid Waste Management Services. Thank you, Chair, for having us here and being able to participate with making some changes to this ordinance. This ordinance is needed. We have consistently an illegal dumping problem in Louisville, and we have a few, not many, but a few that have been impounded up to 4 times. So this is so that we can increase those penalties to make it prohibitive the more times that someone violates the law. The vast majority of people that are out there illegal dumping, once they learn that they could have gotten rid of it for free, say that they'll never do it again, and they don't. I think it has its effect. But these, what we call serial dumpers, they're the ones that's causing the most trouble out in the community, and they're the ones that we want to target with these enhanced penalties.
Mr. Chair, I think their ordinances are out of order. The illegal dumping one would be item number 3, I believe. And I thought we were on number 2, just to make sure that.
We are on 2, and this is supposed to be for trash haulers.
Haulers, yeah.
And the items that I mentioned, I highlighted, were in the trash haulers ordinance, and that is the item we're discussing, is number 2.
Okay, I heard you say dumping.
Councilmember
I
Sine,
misspoke by saying dumping.
I heard you discuss impound, and I believe impound is in the illegal dumping, item number 3. And that the waste hauling is about containment in the trucks.
That is correct.
Okay.
Appealing deadline of impound vehicles may only be released after filing an appeal?
Yes, that's item 3 on illegal dumping.
Okay. Right, then I've got it messed up on here, but Pete's got us on control. Right?
I knew what you was talking about.
Okay. Now both. We got it both on the item. Is there any questions for Mr. Flood?
Yeah, I'm at you.
Okay, let me see. Councilwoman Hawkins.
Yes, thanks for being here today. Have you got the data for the dumping? Do you have the data? I'm just curious. I know that west of 9th Street, they dump everywhere. But I just, I'm just where are you getting, like, your data from?
So almost all of our data comes from illegal dumping reports through Metro 311. What I would tell you is that there's 2 different reporting things. There's illegal dumping, and then there's solid waste violation. People are using them interchangeably. So don't focus on one. Whenever we do our statistics, we put them both together. A lot of the illegal dumping reports are for things that somebody placed a piece of cardboard up against their garage. That's a property issue, not necessarily an illegal dumping issue. So some of the quality of the data isn't always that good. But illegal dumping, depending upon where you're at, is leveled off. Some is decreasing. In other areas, it's increasing. Particularly out in the southwest part of the county, you're seeing more increases. In the area that you're in, it is holding pretty steady at a certain 1, if not decreasing at times. But there is a lot. and I will say that. Part of the issue is to resolve that has to do with the root cause of why it's out there. Many of them that are illegal dumping reports are people setting stuff out behind their property when they're not supposed to, and they don't have an appointment. It looks like illegal dumping.
Yes, and I'm definitely, agreeable with a safe, and our properties looking the way that they should. Also, another concern that I have, have you spoken to codes? Is this something that, you have went through, sat down, and spoke with codes about? Because what I'm finding in the Western 9th Street is that it's more dumping there, right, than out in the East End. And then eventually, and I do know that you all did have a shortage of cameras. You'd have to take a camera from one alley and take it and move it in another alley. And then I also have experienced that when you have these developers that want these homes, because that is who has been targeting a lot of the calls that codes have been getting. It's not the neighbors, it's the developers that want the property, right? And I think sometimes they come and do dumping. I think a lot of those underserved areas their properties have been targeted and things are just there. But what I've also experienced is people dumping and it's in someone else's property in the back. Let's say if you have an alley, right? That particular homeowner gets that fine. So I'm just trying to make sure, I understand what you're trying to do. And I definitely want to support this, but I really do feel like that, Public Works and codes really need to sit down and be able to decipher. One, it's a shortage of cameras, so I would like to know what would that look like for us to get you all more cameras, because dumping is happening, but a lot of the homeowners, are getting fined from codes. And it's not even the homeowners, it's people coming and dumping. And if you don't catch those bad actors, right, then it goes to the homeowners. But if you do catch those bad actors, that is great. But what do you need as far as more cameras? Because there's a shortage, correct? Or am I incorrect?
You're really not correct.
Okay. What's really?
Well, we can always use more cameras, but we can also have to have additional staff to use those cameras. We also are waiting for we're on the verge of having a new renaissance in camera technology. We're testing some cameras that we want to use that are going to be much better than what we have. So we're hoping when they come onto the market, we have them before they're even on the market, that we're able to get those in and start expanding our program. We're trying to get things funded for increasing our enforcement. We are stretched really thin, I will tell you that.
And I sympathize with that, and that is why I'm asking you, like, before we go putting these fines on people, because as soon as you start to put the fines on, of course, if you see these trucks and we get their license tag, fine them. But you got codes that fine dumping in people's yards, and people get fined for that. So I just kind of, like, I'm learning, and I said this a little bit earlier to, Deputy George, that some of the departments really don't talk, and communicate, and whatever you need, because I was told that, well, if it's a highly traffic area where dumping is at, right, we have to move a camera from one area to another area. I need to know what the data is in the West End, west of 9th Street, dumping, and I want to know what the data is in the east end part of town, and I want to know what I can do, I don't care if it comes from NDF funding or what, to make sure that if I gotta help Public Works get more cameras in my district to help the bad actors and not continue to fine the homeowners, I definitely would love to be a partner.
We want you to be a partner. We do speak with codes. I go to their meetings and I ask them to send stuff. We are gaining trust in each other and building that rapport. And we'll continue to do so. I would love to be able to show you that data, but it's better to show you rather than speak on it. So if there's a time that we can come by and show you those statistics and where they're at on maps, we would be more than happy to do so.
Okay, great, and we'll follow up.
Thank you. Hi, Nicole George, Deputy Mayor, Public Health, Public Services. I think just to start, what might be really helpful is to kind of provide some context for how this work and how the legislation, both numbers 2 and 3 on the agenda, came about. First of all, we want to thank Metro Council for being ongoing partners in trying to support a cleaner city. We hear from you guys all the time about these sort of locations and problems. Mayor Greenberg formed a group that includes everyone from code enforcement, LMPD, and our real-time crime center to, of course, solid waste, to really be able to look at a couple of issues. One of those issues, so these are 2 and 3 are really separate issues. The first issue that we heard from council was around waste hauler enforcement and making sure that when we have big trucks on the expressway that they have secured loads. So we heard from several council members about they're on the expressway driving and you see trucks with things just like flying out the back. And my colleagues in solid waste will tell me they do a lot in the way of pickup. KYTC has a contracted pickup, and yet it's never going to be enough if we can't stop that point of origin with those trucks. So number 2 on the agenda regarding licensing of waste haulers and enforcement is really targeted at being able to ensure that trucks have secured loads. And Pete Flood can certainly step that out and explain that piece of legislation. The second piece of legislation, number 3, is related but separate, and that's the one that deals with illegal dumping and being able to ensure that we have a penalty that supports the strong enforcement work that my colleagues in Public Works do. And so they're happy to speak about the specifics of those, but all this to say, we really value the partnership with the council. You guys inform what, where the problems are and how we see them. And these 2 pieces of legislation are about a bigger systems reform that is needed to get us to a cleaner city. So if we're talking about waste hauler enforcement and the licensing requirements, I think Pete can step out very specifically what would be required.
Right, so how would we identify, besides, how would we identify who these bad actors are?
And so we do that with technology, yes,
Right.
and that's part of, yes. We do that with technology and very interesting focus that our colleagues can apply to being able to understand those trucks where they're not secured, and we're able to then cite and follow up with those instances.
And we'll follow up with it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We had apologize for a mistake. We're discussing illegal dumping on 3, and I moved to 2, and I had Councilwoman Rui had moved on that, and I want to know if you would retract that movement, that motion?
Yes, I'd like to withdraw my motion.
Okay, so now we'll call item 3 and ask the clerk to read that into the record.
An ordinance amending the Louisville Metro Code of Ordinances, LMCO, Chapter 51, regarding penalty enhancement for illegal dumping, read in full.
Okay, and so we have the guidelines on the language when it comes to first offense.
Motion.
We need a motion.
We have to have a motion.
Yeah.
And a second.
I second.
Okay, properly moved. And we've got that straight. So Shamika Parrish-Wright is in the queue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for the clarity. Okay, on the dumping, and I want to thank Deputy Mayor George, and I want to thank you for breaking this down. So, and my colleagues who are it seems like this is more of an update to bring more enforcement and ability for you all to go after the bad actors, as Councilwoman Hawkins talked about. I'm always going to look at things from an equity lens, just making sure that when we talk about haulers, there are a lot of different types of haulers. So I want to see, one, where does the funding go? If somebody is fined, I know that there was some lines crossed out. How does that funding come back into our budget? If they're fined, like what happens after that? And then, let's try that first, and then I just got one other question.
Currently, the funds, the way the ordinance is written, it goes to the Waste Management District. Those funds are used for education and outreach, and also assisting with metro government. We've had a very strong collaboration between LMPD, Codes and Regs, and our department, trying to come up with these solutions. So, yeah, that's where it goes.
That's perfect. Because my next question had to do with the education around it. So making sure that we educate the community on what is bulky waste. Like we just had a bulk waste pickup day in my neighborhood in Shively, where you put out your big waste and they come around and pick it up. Also, I do own property in the West End that illegal dumping happened. It backs up to an alley, and I have been fined, as Councilwoman Hawkins was trying to talk about. That does happen a lot. But so I know that part of it, but I think more definition for the community around what's a nuisance, what's bulky waste, and what's approved containers, because some people think if I just put it all in a box or put it all together, it's good to go. So those definitions being clear. I know we understand it and we have the documentation here, but something that's a little more shareable and ways that we can let the community know, I think would be helpful. And I would also like to be added as a co-sponsor with the understanding of the enforcement arm, and also that the funding coming back from this would go to more communication and improved services.
There's no more speakers in the queue. Anybody else have anything they'd like to bring in? I don't see more speakers. Hearing none, this ordinance requires a roll call vote. Clerk, please open the roll call.
I'm sorry. This is Sonia Horvath, the clerk. Actually, we're on item 3, and there is a proposed amendment. Have we adopted that amendment yet?
No.
So we need to adopt. And the amendment? Does the amendment get read in? So who does that?
So you're the sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
So you ask for a motion on the amendment by substitution.
So we need a motion on the amendment by substitution.
Motion.
Properly moved. And a voice vote on the amendment.
Aye. Oh, you're going to say?
The ayes carry. Nay. Ayes carry. Then we need to vote, a roll call on the ordinance. And we'll open that up now.
Councilwoman Shanklin? Okay, thank you. Chair Simon, you have 7 yes votes.
And the ordinance passes. I'm going to ask the clerk to read item 2 in again, please.
An ordinance amending the Louisville Metro Code of Ordinances, LMCO, Chapter 51, regarding the licensing of trash haulers and enforcement of licensing requirements, read in full.
Motion.
Get a second? Properly moved. The item has been moved by the committee, and as the primary sponsor, I'll give you a brief overview, and hopefully we get it right this time. The license requirement, all waste haulers must register with Louisville Metro and obtain annual waste hauler license. License applications must include business and applicant contact information, storage location for vehicles, dumpsters, and trailers, inventory of registered vehicles, description of services offered, proof of insurance, record of any past waste violations past 5 years, and any affidavit certifying all vehicles comply with Chapter 51 of Louisville Metro Code. Updating license fees. Annual license fees increase from $100 to $500. Per vehicle fee increase from $10 to $25 annually. Vehicles must not transport waste in an unsecured manner. No leakage or drainage of liquid waste is permitted outside of approved disposal or recycling facilities. Violations of Louisville Metro Code trigger mandatory inspections by the Waste Management District. Failure to complete the inspection may result in revocation of vehicle waste hauler stickers or license suspension until compliance is achieved. 3 or more violations within 1 year may result in mandatory inspection of all selected fleet vehicles, and continued non-compliance may result in license suspension. Mr. Flood, could you speak to this item, please?
Sure. This is a ordinance that really kind of out of that collaboration between the different departments, particularly LMPD, the administration, and solid waste. And really the aim of this started out was because our streets and highways are so littered with debris coming from waste trucks. And, we get the complaints all the time. I'm following this truck on the highway and there's stuff blowing out of it everywhere. So what we did was we went back and we have reworded this. We fixed some of the language. We have increased the fines, the fees, with those fees being dedicated towards litter education so that we can kind of reduce this. We've partnered with the Waste District to also do additional education as well. The big thing here is that we have started looking for these waste haulers that have these uncovered loads going down the road, and we've been able to cite some, but this ordinance gives us a little bit of clarifying language, particularly around recovered materials, that allows us to cite even more vehicles. So we're doing pretty good. This really goes after a lot of people that are out there hauling illegally and getting them licensed. It's also helping us find some of those individuals. But the ordinance is basically to clean up also some state language that is no longer there. So we ask that you guys support this, and hopefully we can get this done.
Thank you, Mr. Flood. Shamika Parrish-Wright, are you in the queue?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, just looking at this from an equity lens, I know and I totally get, I have visions of Final Destination when I'm behind some of these cars on the highway. The issue is that a lot of people who are working class pick up loads and carry those things, just similar to like recycling. And the licensure fee part, I just want to make sure there's education to people on how they can get the license. Now, the license went up from $100 to $500 per year. And just wondering how this will impact the smaller mom and pop folks who are doing that. And then is there a provision for if I had some furniture that I set out for Goodwill or Salvation Army, what about the nonprofits that come and pick up that kind of waste? And how would that be regulated if someone is making a donation versus, and they call a hauler or someone to come and get it? How are you making that determination? Just want the clarity on that so I can help explain it.
Sure. This is specifically targeted towards for-hire haulers. So this is not the person that's hauling stuff from their house making donations, although they should still cover their load, and that's what an education campaign is for. But this is targeting people that are out there hauling for a fee so that we can get them, number one, we identify them and get them licensed, but also to let them know what the rules are on covering your load. Since we've been educating and we've been citing some. I can tell you there's been a massive increase in the vehicles out there with covered loads. So in essence, it's already working. So we're not looking to go after the average person. We're looking to go after people that are hauling for a fee. It's their business. They should be doing it right.
I will say a couple words. Since I've been in office here, we have gone crazy trying to work with the Brickyard. I'm sure you're familiar with that. It was a dump ground, and we finally got it cleaned up. We had to work with private property owners. That's an issue that we have to deal through. But I want to thank Deputy Mayor George for bringing this up, and thank you for getting out there and getting it cleaned up. It's staying cleaned. And also, we have Outer Loop, and where the waste management is, and I mean, there's trash all over from trucks hauling and not covering up their loads, and it looks like a third world country sometimes. And we thank you for this legislation, and if there's nobody else in the queue, it's going to open it up for a roll call vote for this ordinance. So if you would open up.
Councilwoman Shanklin?
Yes.
Councilman Herndon?
Let's go to old business.
Chair Simon, you have 7 yes votes.
Item passes. It will be sent to old business next council meeting. And thank you, Mr. Flood. We appreciate you.
Thank all of you.
The next item, which was the first item, we're joined by, let me get here, Misty Wright, Executive Director of Community Safety, for an update on Safe Louisville and the consent decree. Ms. Wright, please state your name, rank, and serial number, and we will be glad to hear from you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Misty Wright, the Mayor's Executive Director of Community Safety. It's great to see you. I've met a lot of you before, but it's good to see you again. Good to see the new faces. What I had planned to do, Mr. Chairman, is give about 15 to 20 minutes of information on what the plan is and then take questions. Given the timing, does that still work?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. All right. In that case, I'll start with a bit of an introduction. So I am from Louisville, born and raised, newly back as of January. After I went to Sacred Heart, I know that's the question that everyone asks. So I went to Sacred Heart. I went to college at Yale and majored in cognitive neuroscience. After that, I went to Harvard Law School, came back here to clerk for the late John Hayburn at federal court here. Then worked in class action litigation and was a federal prosecutor in Chicago for about 9 years prior to returning here. While a federal prosecutor, I specialized in gangs and cartels, those kinds of prosecutions. So in my role now as Executive Director of Community Safety, my primary job duty is to devise and then implement strategies that can be comprehensive strategies to reduce and eliminate and otherwise prevent crime in Louisville. The way that is structured, I work for the mayor. I work in the mayor's office. Under me and reporting to me, just like the Department of Public Works reports to Deputy Mayor George, the Office of Violence Prevention and our group violence intervention departments report to me. So that's the structure that I operate with currently. I want to talk to you today about the Safe Louisville Plan, which dropped in April, and it is ongoing, so implementation has already begun on that. Soon, there will be a Community Safety Commission that is formed. We're in the process of appointing members to that commission that will involve folks from institutions that are relevant in the justice system and otherwise. Metro Council has a seat on the commission, but it's primarily comprised of community organizations and community members. So 1/3 of that will be community members dispersed throughout the city, throughout all of our police divisions, and 1/3 will be community organizations that will have a variety of expertise. Could be anything from an advocacy organization to medical organization, anyone with an interest and a stake in crime reduction and prevention in the city. I'm excited to get that started because then we can start comprehensive report outs on what's going on in the city. Those will be open to the public and accessible to all of you and everyone else in our city. Without further ado, Safe Louisville. This is the mayor's comprehensive violence reduction plan. It is a 5-year commitment to employing certain strategies throughout our city. The metric by which we're evaluating success is multifaceted. First, we're looking to see a 15% reduction in homicides and non-fatal shootings year over year over year. That's the goal. Second, we're looking to improve how people feel about the safety of Louisville. So based on qualitative surveys taken now and then taken periodically once a year, are we doing better at making people feel better, feel safer in our city? And then third, really this is all about the long game. It's about setting up the next generation to grow and have more opportunities than our current generation has, particularly as it relates to our underserved communities who have not had the same access as other people in our city. All right. Thus far, this year, both shootings and homicides are down over 30%, 31% and 32% respectively as of this moment. That is great progress, and that is a result of a lot of initiatives that have been going on for over several years now, including community-oriented strategies that have been happening. But this admittedly is not the entire picture. Violent crime overall is also down. Police self-initiated activity is up. But this statistic, although I think it's the best proxy for what we're looking for, because primarily we want to save lives. That's issue number one, save more lives, and save more lives in areas of our city who are, with people who are at greater risk of losing their life to gun violence or other types of violence. It doesn't capture the entire picture, and we will remain mindful that there are other metrics for evaluating success throughout. I just want to give you a bit of good news at the beginning here. All right. In devising this plan, we looked at data, and what you see in front of you right now is a graph of homicides and non-fatal shootings over a 14-year period ending last year. So you can see back in 2010, we only had 54 homicides and 163 non-fatal shootings. I use the word only just because of the relative nature of the statistics thereafter. That is still too many, to be clear. But over time, we see that number increase. We see a small spike and a beginning of an increase, particularly with non-fatal shootings starting in 2015 and 2016. And then we see this massive spike when the pandemic hits. And that's not unique to Louisville. That happened throughout the United States. It was more pronounced as it relates to violent crime. All crime went up, but violent crime was more pronounced, and gun crimes were even more pronounced than that. So we are not unique in that regard. Since 2021, the statistic has been falling steadily, with the gains, so to speak, really reduction, this year being the largest so far since 2021. The demographics of gun violence from 2024 are 15% of victims and 17% of perpetrators are under 18, so considered juveniles. I want to caveat that by perpetrators here, I mean known perpetrators, meaning they were actually charged with a crime. So this does not reflect the crimes for which there was no solve or no suspect charged. 15% of victims, 17% of perpetrators are under 18. That number is on the rise. It's a slight rise, but it's on the rise, and that tells us we need to focus on juveniles. 81% of victims and 87% of perpetrators were males, most between 18 and 34. 74% of victims and 73% of perpetrators were black. 18% of victims and 26% of perpetrators were white. About 31% of shootings were gang or group violence related, and I use group violence because I don't just mean validated gangs. I mean groups of individuals who commit crimes together. So that's a more comprehensive term. And then around 50% of shootings occurred geographically in the West End. This plan is a hybrid plan, and I say that because a lot of cities will come out with a public health-informed plan. Other cities may come out with a law enforcement-only plan. This plan is a hybrid. It acknowledges the importance of having a public health lens when looking at crime and social determinants of health, social determinants of crime. But it also acknowledges the importance of law enforcement. So looking at the statistics for social determinants of health and crime, the percent of population living in poverty is correlated to the number of homicides and non-fatal shootings, as we would all expect. The red dots there are homicides, the yellow dots are non-fatal shootings, and the more purple, the more percent of the population is living below poverty level in that area. This next map shows the percent of the population that did not graduate high school by age 25, another predictor of violence, as we know from research. So we can see the more purple it is, the less educated that portion of the population is, meaning the percent of folks who are 25 years old or older who have attained less than a high school degree. The next is percent of population that is unemployed, unemployment rate being another factor that is correlated with an increase in crime. The more purple, the more percentage are unemployed. And I have one more marker here, then that's the percent of housing units that are vacant. We'll talk about this in just a moment, but there is a lot that has to do with public infrastructure that correlates with crime rate. And one of these things is the percent of housing units that are vacant. The more purple, the higher that percentage is. All right. So that leads to Safe Louisville. The vision is that every Louisvillian lives free from violence and feels safe in their community. And there are some themes to this plan. Collaboration, commitment, and community being three of those themes. With respect to collaboration, the most important part here is that we have to be firing on all cylinders to make a dent. We can't rely solely on police. We can't rely solely on communities. We can't rely solely on our government. Everyone has to be working together toward this goal to make a meaningful dent, to make a commitment, and to make lasting change. So the Safe Louisville plan has three pillars. The first and the meatiest is prevention. The second is intervention, and the third is enforcement. Prevention is all about combating the root causes of violence and creating conditions for peace. So this has several subparts, and I'll go through them rather quickly just because of our format today, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have on any of them. The first here is public infrastructure. And this is about investing in and reimagining spaces that our community uses, particularly in underserved areas. So reimagining public amenities like parks, Alberto Jones Park, or like pools, the Algonquin Pool, streetscapes, 9th Street Project. All of these things are meant to increase social capital for folks who are living in these areas. And related to this is blight eradication. So one of the primary strategies the city is using right now in the area of blight eradication is sustained focus improvement, and this was first articulated in LMPD's crime plan. This is a strategy in which all areas of government come together and have agreed that they will prioritize certain areas of our city that, based on a weighted measure, have been found to shoulder a higher burden of crime for city services. So these areas should get street cleanups faster. They should get streetlights repaired faster. They should get access to city services faster. Those 311 calls that come in, they should be prioritized for these areas of the city. And the idea is that the folks there need those services the most as compared to the rest of the city. What you see up here is just one area of the city that is called out, which is City View in conjunction with a portion of our central business district. But there are 5 areas throughout the city getting this treatment. Second, youth education and activities. Obviously, early childhood education is important. We are promoting free early childhood education for every child. That has been shown via every ounce of research to affect one's likelihood of being arrested later in life. And we want every kid to have the same opportunities. This is also about expanding access to libraries like the Parkland Library. So renovating libraries, reopening them, expanding hours, looking at our community centers and seeing how they can better serve the communities where they are situated, to ensure that youth in particular are able to have access to education and a place to go and activities to occupy their time. All right. Next is economic stability. This is about two things. It's about, number one, housing, access to affordable housing, and number two, jobs, access to employment opportunities. And both of those things need to be physically located in the neighborhoods where people reside who need it. So we need to be attracting businesses to be in that space that people can get to without taking 3 buses. We need to be creating more units of housing that are actually accessible for people who are living in underserved areas. And thus far, about 4,800 new units of affordable housing have been created. We still got a long way to go, but that's where we're at the moment. Another part of economic stability that I particularly love is the community care campus that's underway in Smoketown. This is really about caring for the person as a whole and trying to deal with getting services to people who are unhoused and getting them put in a place where they can succeed and thrive and have access to mental health treatment, to training facilities, to be able to set them up to sustain themselves after a period of time. And this is the kind of coordinated approach that we need to be emphasizing going forward. All right. After economic stability, we have item number 4, community resource connections. Part of what the Office of Violence Prevention is attempting to do is to connect as many folks who are working, and by folks I mean organizations and individuals, working in the crime prevention and reduction space to compound those efforts together, to reduce redundancies, to find ways to help each other, because we're not always going to have the same number of resources. We're running out of ARP funds. That is just what it is. And we have to find new and innovative ways to help our community organizations sustain the important work that they have been doing for many years. So there will be a continuation of the gun violence reduction summits, that are annual summits that our Office of Violence Prevention will continue to host. And they are currently collecting information for a directory to be able to disseminate to all relevant organizations so that people can make connections amongst themselves as well, and convene groups of folks who are working in the same area. Number 5 under prevention is community trust in police. And I am not here today to speak about the consent decree, but I will note that the community commitment, Louisville's consent decree, is part of the overall crime reduction plan. And the reason for that is that police reform has to be part of the solution. It is not, it is something that should be intertwined with crime reduction and prevention. And that's because we have to enable our community to be able to trust our police. That helps for prevention of crime, that helps for solving crimes. Everyone agrees that a healthy police department and community relationship leads to better outcomes. So part of what the community commitment is about is the mayor saying, no matter what happens in court, Department of Justice can do what they want to do. He and our police chief are committed to police reform no matter what. And all of that substance, all of the key objectives from that originally filed consent decree document in court, which remains pending, by the way, all of those key objectives are reflected in this document. And we expect to be able to follow through with an independent monitor to review progress on the community commitment.
Ms. Wright?
Yes, sir.
We're about to get on a hard stop here.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to have you come back because this is definitely a topic that people are widely interested in. And I do want to give folks a couple questions. They want to get in and get a couple questions before we have to leave. So I'm going to ask Councilwoman Wright if she would entertain her question, and hopefully we can get you back for more conversation.
I'm happy to.
All right, thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chair, and I will try to make it quick. I had already made points around the independent monitor. The application, has that process closed? Are you getting applicants for that? Are you overseeing that?
So I'm not personally overseeing that process, but that application process is underway and applications are being accepted right now.
Okay. And then I appreciated where you started with the charts. I do think it's important that those red dots that show where violence was happening, and specifically gun violence, were all over the county. And I saw a concentration. I will tell you, it brought tears to my eyes as someone who's birthed and raised 3 kids in the West End, that it just paints a picture that it's all just bad down there. When there's pockets in the South End, pocket near our international immigrant communities that are dealing with violence as well. So it is hard to sit here with that, but I want to make it quick. So the all types of violence, being specific on what you count as violence and what not, because we know that our suicide rates continue to rise way more than our gun violence is. And then that 14-year period, I think that was really good to show the map on how things were. My only thing is I didn't see anything around, I know you're going to do the annual gun violence summit, but studies have shown that job opportunities, 24-hour community centers, access to resources and care in different pockets of the county could be effective. And I wanted to make sure that there was a notion to drive some of these resources out to those kinds of ideas that people have. And the other thing is the collaboration piece. There are missing people from this table, and I just want to know, how are you bringing those folks in? And the other question I think is for the mayor. We have an inspector general that's looking into, you talked, one of your pillars had community trust in the police. Where are we at with the inspector general's role and how we're going to move forward? But you can send me an email. Some of those.
Yes, ma'am, I think that might be easier.
Okay.
Councilwoman Hawkins?
Thank you. Missy, thanks for coming in today. I wouldn't be me if I didn't say this. I just have to. I'm learning that, I know that you are new, and I appreciate you jumping straight in. But for me, I have a list of questions. I know we talk pretty frequently, but just some of the things that you went through, I'm learning that this is a strategy. People come in here and they have these platforms and they make it long and drawn out. So by the time it's time for us to ask questions, we can't even ask. So I'm upset about that. That's the first thing. But the second thing is, I'm just going to ask one question. Who's going to oversee the applications? If you're not going to be doing that, who's going to oversee and who is receiving the applications that come in from the independent monitor?
There's a panel that will review that.
Okay, and so is there applicants from the community that are going to be on that panel?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so what do you know about that panel? Who sits on that panel? Are you not sure? You need to follow back up?
I will follow up with you
Thank
because I don't want to misstate the answer to that.
Thank you. Gotcha.
Councilwoman Rui, please.
Thank you. I only have one question, but I could not help noting when you were looking at your statistics regarding gun violence that 30% of the gun violence seems to be gang-related. What's the rest of it? What's going on there?
Yeah.
Because the story that we get so often seems to be that it's related to gun violence and you shot my friend, so no, I shoot you, and it's going back and forth like that. So where is this other, what are the root causes, do you think, of some of this other violence?
So I think all of it is rooted in interpersonal conflict. Some of it, I think, can properly be called group violence, and we're talking about a group that has come together and commits crimes together versus someone shoots someone and then someone does something in retaliation, which may not really be a group violence problem. But we have interpersonal conflict when it relates to domestic violence as well, or personal relationships that have issues. A lot of this stems from the proliferation of guns on our streets. And so the next thing that I was going to speak about, and I'll table it for next time, is common sense gun legislation, advocating for that. The more guns that are on our streets and accessible, the more likely guns are to be used to settle a dispute. And we're seeing that happen, that there's a willingness to escalate to that kind of violence. And I think that that is firmly tied to the availability of guns.
Thank you. I would love to see a deeper dive into what are the relationships of the other gun violence that we're seeing.
Yes, ma'am.
Before I end, nobody else is in the queue. The numbers, the 30%, I'm trying to figure out where you're getting the numbers, what constitutes the shootings. From what I understood, if somebody takes a gun and points it at an elderly person and takes their car, that's not counted in gun violence, is it?
It's not counted in the non-fatal
And if I shoot
shooting
at you and I miss you, that's not counted in these statistics, correct?
Correct.
But it's a shooting regardless. So
Yes.
that's what I'm concerned about, those numbers, and we'll get into that next time we have you back. But there's no other speakers in the queue. Does anybody have any further business? because we're going to have to make room for the next committee. But we appreciate you coming here. And we have no other further business, so since there is none, our next regularly scheduled Public Safety Committee meeting will be held Wednesday, August 6th at 4. Thank you all for your time today. Having no more further business, we stand adjourned.
Thank you, sir.